Tonight, I have one of my friends that went to Israel with us. I met him in Israel, and I'm going to let him tell his story tonight. But this is something, I've been a Christian for 6 years. Nick, come on, Nick, come on. Come on now, this is my boy Nick. This is a story that I've been a Christian for 6 years, and I never heard this story in a church before. It's always a testimony of like, I was going to die, I was going to blow my head off, I OD'd or this and that, I was in jail and I got saved, I found Jesus. This is the complete opposite. So I thought it would be important that we tell this little story tonight and see what you guys think. So this is my boy Nick. Thank you for coming, Nick.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I need my notes. How's everyone doing tonight, by the way? Dominic Bally killing it again, like always. He has CDs out there in the back if you guys are interested. Where did my notes go? Here we go, here we go. All right, let's start this interview off. So Nick, tell me about yourself and give us a little backstory on your life.
Sure. Well, before I do that, I just want to read the word. 1 John 1, 1 through 3. I'm just going to read verse 3, though. It says, "We proclaim to you what we have seen and heard, so that you also may have fellowship with us, and our fellowship is with the Father and with His Son, Jesus Christ." One of the things for me, I've been in the church for 19 years. I got saved in February 1995. God called me to ministry not too long after that. And so I knew that God had called me to be a minister in the church, to be a pastor. And this verse after Israel came to life to me because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to testify as Christians. We testify to what God did in our lives. And I've always been so focused on trying to break apart the word and teach people what the Bible means. And I've never really testified about my life and what God's doing. And then Philippians 1:6 says, "And I am sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ." So God's always at work in our lives. So, like I said, I got saved 19 years ago. I've been a Christian for a long time. And I've never had like a big falling away where, I've had this big sin issue. I mean, as any Christian, I've struggled with sin and dabbled in it. But for the most part, I've been a good Christian. I went away to school, to a Christian college. I studied Christian ministry. I got my degree. I got ordained as a pastor, and I've married and buried him. So I mean, I've got all the credentials. So I've had a pretty good run for 19 years. Been a good rule-abiding Christian. And one of the things I promised God when I was in college was that I would never run from the call of my life, that I would always serve him. I made a vow to God in college that I would serve God no matter what. And that's what I aimed to do. Even when I wasn't, paid in a church, I would volunteer. So, that's about it. That's my backdrop.
And you got kids.
I do. I have 4 kids, 4 beautiful kids. And as I said before, a smoking hot wife, So right. God's blessed me, I am beyond blessed,
Booyah. All right, so how'd you hear about the Whosoevers and get on the Whosoever trip?
Well,
to Israel.
Yeah, to Israel, to go to Israel. So about 4.5 months ago, I was at work. I have a side, the ministry thing, never materialized in a lot of money. So I got a job working in a company, and I work in the IT department there. And so I'm actually able to work from my house. So it's been great. I feel like God blessed me with that job so that I could go do ministry and still, and I make my money from this other job. So about 4.5 months ago, I was sitting in a meeting with a lady. That her name's JJ. She's one of the other managers in the company. And it was 10:40 in the morning, and she just all of a sudden, and I'm teleconferencing into the meeting, so I'm sitting in my office at home, which is just a little 3x8 closet. So I actually have a closet for an office at my house. So my wife somehow got the big closet for all her stuff. So, but at any rate, so I'm sitting in there, and she just just all of a sudden says, you know what, we got to cut this. I got to talk to Nick about something. Let's just end this. I think we're done anyway. And so she just killed the meeting, and she kicked out all of the other people in the meeting. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, what's going on? She didn't kick me out. She wanted to talk to me. Now, JJ and I have a relationship. JJ and I are friends. She has a 19-year-old son named Derek, who ended up going on the Whosoever trip as well. And she asked me a few years prior to that, because I've been a minister in the church. I've been a youth pastor. I've been an assistant pastor at church, she asked me to just kind of mentor Derek, whenever I get a chance, if I could take him out and just kind of, talk to him. Derek's had kind of a rough life, and she said, I've tried, I've reached out to him. JJ's a prayer warrior. She's been praying for her son's salvation, and so she just asked me, young guy, help out. So she kicked everybody out, and she says, Nick, I can't believe I didn't think about this before. I can't believe this didn't cross my mind. And I'm like, spit it out, tell me what it is, And so she's like, well, I was trying to go myself, and I was trying to get, his stepdad to go, and I was trying to get his uncle to go. And I'm like, what? I'm like, go ahead. And she said, well, Derek wants to go to Israel. And I was like, that's fantastic, that's great news. So, where's that with me? She goes, well, you're the one that's been helping him out all these years. I want you to go with him. And I was like, what? Like, just like dumbfounded that she would ask me to go to Israel. And I was like, JJ, that's nuts, And she said, no, I just believe that you're the one that's supposed to take him, and I believe that God's going to make it happen. And so I'm thinking, Israel, right? I don't speak Hebrew, and I don't know anything about Israel. And here she wants, this middle-aged man, to go with a 19-year-old boy, to another country. And she said, but he wants to go with this group. They're called the Whosoevers. And I was like, great. So now I go with these people that I don't even have any affiliation with. I don't know who they are. She goes, just Google, look them up. And I've warned everybody since I've told, don't ever tell someone to Google the Whosoevers. Like, that is a bad idea, We are
on the internet, we are a cult, and I think Head's the leader of a cult, so that's good Head is.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the leader of the cult.
You guys are a cult, leading people away from the church. And so I'm reading all this stuff about the Whosoevers after she told me to check them out. And I'm thinking the exact opposite of what she's saying. I'm thinking, man, I need to tell JJ to get Derek away from this stuff, Like, this is terrible. Like, these people, and I'm reading blogs about people saying stuff, and I'm like, man, so I'm already thinking, there's no way I'm going on this trip. And then she says to me, the trip is, the only thing is, Nick, the trip is in 4 weeks. And I was like, 4 weeks? And she goes, yeah, you'll be gone for like 11 or 12 days. I was like, 11 or 12 days, so I got to take 2 weeks off of work? And then she's like, and I need to know by tonight. And I was, so, obviously that's not happening, you know what I mean? So I was like, all right, whatever. So and I took it through the channels. She said, I just believe that God wants you to do it. I said, JJ, number one, I don't have, the cash flow to do that. And she said, that's okay. God told me he wants me to pay for your trip. And I was like, dude, that's not chump change, you know what I mean? That's a lot of money, And I'm thinking, she's serious about this, She really wants me to go with Derek. And I'm thinking, all right, so let me do some more research on these Whosoevers. So I start looking up these Whosoevers because I'm trying to find a reason why I shouldn't be going, Now, every Christian's dream is to go to Israel, I think. It's like, it's seemingly, I've always wanted to go to Israel, but not under these circumstances, I don't think. You know what I mean? So I'm seeing all this stuff about you guys, and I get onto Facebook, and I find your Facebook page, and I see that one of my, the thought that went through my mind was one of my sinner friends is a Facebook fan of these guys. Like, that's the thought that went through. I'm going to be real. I'm just going to tell you, those inner thoughts that you guys have sometimes that you would never tell anybody? I don't even care about those thoughts inside me anymore. I'm just telling them. So sorry if I offend, sorry if, whatever. But I'm just going to tell them. But that's what I thought. I thought, what heathen friend of mine would be fans of these guys? And it turned out to be one of the guys on the worship team from a church I was at years ago. And so I'm like, man, I knew worship, people, they're crazy. So I wrote him and I said, hey, man, what's going on with these guys? What do you know about them? I see that you keep up with them. He goes, dude, these guys go into the highways and the byways. They compel everyone. They will reach people that people in the church will never reach. And I was like, that's cool, but I'm in the church, so I don't need to reach people I'm reaching people that come to church, so I'm already kind of, throwing off what he's trying to say. And so, I'm thinking, okay, this is probably still not going to happen, but let me go through the channels. So I went to my wife. That was, I'm sitting here thinking, I have no idea. I have 4 kids, and I'm going to her and about to say, in 4 weeks, I'm going to be gone for about 2 weeks, Is that possible? So I go to her and not having any idea what to expect. She says to me, are you kidding? You have to go. That's unbelievable. What kind of opportunity God is giving you? Why would you not go? I was like, it was almost like she was trying to push me out of the house. You know what I mean? I was like, maybe I've been working from home too long. You know what I mean? Because she was, it was pretty nuts. So I was like, you think I should go? Are you kidding? Like, she goes, yeah, I can't believe you would even say no. I don't even know why. So God totally worked that out. And then the other thing I had to do was ask my boss. So I called my boss. I work in a secular company. I work in the IT department. So, it's not like it's a Christian organization or anything like that. So I say, I'm being presented with this opportunity to go to Israel. And I'm expecting, her to put the kibosh on it, And I said, I'll leave in 4 weeks, and I need 2 weeks vacation, and I need to, if just seeing if it's going to work out. And I have 3 major projects due right when I get back. It would be 6 weeks away, when I get back. So she said, Nick, I think that, we don't live to work, but we work to live. And I was like, that's deep. You know what I mean? I was like, who's this lady? Why? She's giving me this deep stuff, I'm like not expecting all this stuff. So just.
You don't want to go on the trip, so you're looking for any way.
I'm looking for anything to keep me from on this trip. And she said that, and I said, all right. So I went back, told my wife. She said, I think God's opening the door for you to go. So I called JJ back, and I said, yeah. I said, I guess I'll go with these freaks called the Whosoevers,
So, how was your Israel experience, and how did it affect your life?
Well, the Israel experience was unbelievable. Here I am in, the same area where Jesus walked, where he called his disciples, where he was crucified, where he sacrificed everything for me, where God came and met us, from heaven to earth. So I'm already thinking, I've been a good Christian this year because God's blessing me with this, I'm thinking God wanted me to go on this trip. He's made this happen. So my mind is thinking totally, that somehow, some way, I please the Father enough to be able to go on this trip. Because I'm not paying for it. It's like everything's like covered. And on March 31st, we were at the trip like 3 days or something like that. We were staying on the Sea of Galilee. And we came back from an awesome day, like just an awesome day going around. And everywhere we went, Ryan and Pastor Raul would open up the Bible and teach from whatever happened in that area. So you're like, dude, you mean so that story took place right here? So my mind is just blown. I'm like, and so I come back every single day just like, dude, my Bible became 3D. I was like, this is the best. This is great. So I was on cloud 9. And Derek, who's staying with me, was, when we got back, we're in the room, he's huffing and puffing. He's just like, it was like he was just upset. You could tell I could visibly tell that he was not happy. And he was pacing the room, kind of making me a little nervous, because Derek's bigger than me. So I was like, I don't know what's going on here. But when we were on the bus coming back, we were all cutting up. Everybody was laughing and joking around. And Ryan had said to everybody on the bus, he goes, how many of you guys love being in Israel? And all of us are like, yeah. And he's like, how many of you want to come back to Israel? And all of us, yeah. We're like so excited and so happy. And then all of a sudden you hear this little voice in the back. He goes, not me. I hate all you guys.
My dad.
And it was his dad, So we just were like, we looked over and we saw it was Pastor Raul. We just rolled. The bus just laughing. Ryan's like, what did he say? What did he say about me? And so we just thought it was the funniest thing ever. And I look over at Derek, and Derek's like, grumpy face, you know? And I'm like, you know, he didn't get it. He didn't understand why we were laughing. You know, we all just had joy inside us. Yeah. So Derek in the hotel room was like, I just don't understand why you guys are all laughing on the bus and having a good time. I just don't get it. Why am I not like that? And so I, you know, in all my 19 years of Christianity, I'm sitting there thinking, well, you know, I got the Spirit of God in me, you know, but I'm not going to sit here and blast him out with that. But I was like, Derek, there's something inside us, you know, that's different, you know, and it's something that, you know, you need in your life. I said, that's what's causing us to have this joy and you not to have it, you know. And I'm still being kind of ginger, you know, because his mom paid for me to be on this trip, so I need to be nice to him, you know. So, no, but I mean, for real, though, for the past few years, I've been, like, trying to, like, you know, mentor him, you know, and try to be, like, a godly figure for him, right? So, and I start realizing that he's having a battle, and this is a spiritual thing, and I'm sitting here thinking, I'm so tired. I don't really want to get into a big spiritual battle now. We had a great day. I'm ready to go down and have some dinner and then, like, you know, call it a night. But Derek was just, he kept on going. So I was like, all right, Derek, what's going on? You know, what is it? You know, he's like, I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I said, I'll tell you what it is, Derek. I said, you know what you need to do. He's like, what? I said, you know what you need to do. You need to get saved. I said, you know the scriptures. Your mom's been praying for you. She's been taking you to church. And so it finally, for me, came to a head. And I was just like, boom, I need to just tell him. So I busted open Romans, and I took him through Romans Road. Romans 3:10 for everyone. You know, there's no one righteous. There's no one who understands. No one who seeks God. All have turned away. They have together become worthless. Then I went to Romans 3:23. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Then I went to 5:8. But God demonstrates his love for us in this while we were sinners. Romans 6:23. For the wages of sin is death. But I mean, you can see, you know, I have all this stuff in, you know. So I'm like, this is why, you know, the pastor's here. This is why Nick's on the trip, you know, because I'm about to get Derek saved, you know. So I'm going to do it, you know what I mean? And God made, you know, you needed help. So I'm here to do this, you know. So I'm reading it to him. And I'm like, and Derek's like, I don't know, man. You could just tell he was visibly, you know, he wasn't hearing it. And I said, Derek, what's wrong with you? I said, you know. He's like, Nick, I'm scared. I'm scared. And so, like, for the first time, it came for him, like, it was a decision. It was a choice right now. And he had to get over his fear. And I said, what are you scared of? He said, I'm afraid of when I get back home. I'm not going to have what I have here. I'm not going to have somebody helping me. I'm not going to have people talking to me about Jesus. I'm not going to have the support. I said, Derek, why are you worrying about home? I said, look where we are right now. I said, look out over there. You see that? You see that water? Jesus walked on that. I said, Jesus called his disciples right here on this shore. I said, you don't need to worry about what's going on next week, in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You need to take care of business today. I said, so what are you going to do? I said, I'm not going to make you get saved. I'm not even going to ask you to get saved. Because if I'm the one pushing it, it's not going to happen. It's not for you. You have to make this decision. And I said, what do you want to do? He said, I want to get saved. And I was like, what? Like shocked, you know, like, you do? Like, you know, like, that's never happened before, like, to me. I've never told somebody you need to get saved, you know what you need to do, and they said yes, you know, so it's like, wow. So I'm sitting here thinking, this is awesome. And I'm like, do you want to do it now, or do you want to go get these guys who've been ministering to you, these last 3 days? He's like, let's call everybody up. So I'm telling you, I went downstairs, we went downstairs, and I started rounding everybody up. And I was saying this the other day, I saw people flying down the hallway. It was almost like they were coming up down the hallway and running on the walls. And, I mean, they were flying because they knew Derek. Derek was the one on the trip that everybody was kind of ministering to and knew that, you know, he needed Jesus. And so, you know, that's what happened. Derek gave his heart to Jesus, and we prayed with him. All of us guys circled up around him, and it was it. You know, it was like, dude, Derek got saved, you know? And, yeah, we should clap because that's what God did. God did it, no question. So
what happened after that?
Well, see, I'm thinking my purpose on the trip is complete, you know? Like, that's why God, seriously, I was like, you know, man, no one else could have busted out Romans Road for him. No one knew the script. I was there, you know? So I was sitting there.
Don't hate him yet, you guys.
I mean.
Don't hate him yet.
You can hate because it gets worse before it gets better.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that's for me, I really did. I was thinking that's why God had me there, because I was the one that's been ministering to him for a few years, and God needed me, that little gateway for him. And so I was thinking, you know, I'm cool. This is good. This is what's the purpose of my trip. So now I can enjoy the rest of my trip, and, you know, it'll be more like kind of like a like a Bible time for me and really getting close to God and all this other stuff, but it wasn't like that. You know what I mean? It wasn't like that at all, actually. So I think
Waniac.
the next night
Yeah.
we were sitting at dinner, and I'm thinking, Derek's saved. You know, we're having these awesome days, and I sit down together, with these two guys, these two sinners from the Whosoevers. And
Wait, hold on. Explain what these sinners look like so they could get a visual.
I mean, this one dude, they're both giants. I would never tell them you're sinners because they would pound my face in. Like, they are enormous. One's a CrossFit guy. The other guy works construction. I mean, these guys are, and tattoos from from the chin all the way down to the shin, chin to shin. I've never seen it. Yeah, I've never seen tattoos like this, So I'm like, I can see you guys are sinners, it's like, so I'm sitting down with these guys thinking, what can I help with these guys with? I've already helped Derek, And I'm sorry, I told you, I was just going to tell you what's going through my head. I know some of you in here are like, man, I would never tell people my thoughts. Before this trip, I would never tell people my thoughts.
Those two people that you explained right now, there's a lot of those people covered in tattoos here.
So don't pound my face in, have mercy and grace. So I was thinking that with these guys. I was thinking, and they shared some of the stuff that they had been into, And I was like, one of the things, this guy started asking me my story, asking me, about my Christianity and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I've never sinned like you sin, bro. You don't need to ask me this stuff, I'm telling you, I'm just being real. I'm being real. And, it's something that I didn't even realize that I was doing this. It just was flippantly happening because I'm thinking, I've been in the church for 19 years. You've been in the church, you said 3 years. And this other guy, I heard some of the sins you did, you really bad. You know what I mean? I'm like, you guys are, so they're trying to teach me. They're trying to talk to me. And so Wayne was Wayne said something to me about, so what's your story? What's going on? What's God doing in your life, currently. I was like, man, I just, I'm serving in the church. I've been a Christian for 19 years. Right now I work in the children's ministry. I'm not on staff anywhere, but, it's this is where God has me right now, but my heart's to preach. So dumbest comment I ever made, because as soon as I said my heart is to do something, he's like, oh, your heart. And so then he starts busting out, he started telling me, your heart is deceitful, though, I was like, dude. So I'm like, who is this big tattooed, CrossFit looking sinner talking to me like that, That's what's going through my mind. And I'm thinking, what he quoted basically was Jeremiah 17:9. Wayne did, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Who can understand it? And I was like, I just told him my heart's to preach. I have no comeback for that right now. So I'm sitting here thinking, what can I, I'm like, well, dude, I just mean that I'm called to preach. God has put that in me and I want to preach. He said, well, who are you preaching to? And I was like, I just told you, man, I'm in the children's ministry. I teach children right now, He's like, but you said your heart is to preach. Who are you preaching to outside of church? I'm like, dude, you don't know me. Get out of my face. So he's asking these questions and I'm dumbfounded. I'm dumbfounded that this no knowledge person, in my mind, thinking, coming after me like that. And I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, so I don't know what to say to him, but this is how I felt. I want to tell you how I felt. Philippians 3:4-5 says, though I myself have reason for confidence in the flesh, if anyone else thinks he has reasons for confidence in the flesh, I have more. Circumcised on the 8th day of the people of Israel, of the tribe of Benjamin, a Hebrew of Hebrews, as to the law, a Pharisee. This is what Paul was saying, and I felt like I'm the longest tenured Christian on this trip, I think, besides, Pastor Raw, and he didn't have me beat by much, you know what I mean? The only reason he had me beat more is because he's born before me, you know what I'm saying? I'm thinking, percentage-wise, why are they doing this to me? And I'm offended. I'm a little bit offended. And then the worst thing that could happen possibly, Derek comes walking over with 3 of the other young guys that I was talking to a couple nights before. And here They walk over right as Wayne's drilling me with all these questions, and Eric and Wayne just drilling me. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, how do I get this conversation off of me? Because Derek's going to think I'm not a good Christian. I'm his mentor. I got to get this off of me. So they come over, and I'm like, so what were you guys talking about? Bail me out here. Bail me out. I'm thinking, I got to get this conversation off me. And I didn't say this. I didn't tell you this before, but what happened was later that night when we got back to our room, I said to Derek, this is great, man. I said, isn't it awesome? These guys are like all ministering to you and helping you out. You just got saved. He said, yeah, and they're ministering to you too.
Oh, he said that?
He said that. Derek said that to me. Good job, Derek. I wanted to punch you when you said it.
Saved 2 hours.
It was 3 hours after dinner that we had been down there. 3 hours, I felt like I was being hammered. So, it was nuts. So, at the end of the day, this is what Wayne said to me before we left. He said, I just think you need to start it over. I was like, start it over? I think you just need to start your relationship with Jesus over. And I was like, nah, no, I don't, maybe some of these other guys, I seriously, this is what I told him. I said, nah, I don't think that's me, man. I've been in the church. I know Jesus. I know who he is. I know Jesus, So that's what my thought was. And God was working on me, but nothing really heavy. It wasn't like God was jamming this down my throat. I felt like Wayne was jamming it down my throat, and I was just like, come on, man. Too much CrossFit, stop. It's too much high pressure. So that's what happened there,
So, what happened? Obviously, you're not too happy right now. You're going back,
Yeah, my mind is more like thinking, okay, don't sit down with those guys anymore. Don't eat with them, just stay kind of away, go help those younger guys,
This reminds me, there's a lot of the Pharisee stories, that you read in the Bible.
Well, yeah, it's crazy because we're going to get there. I'm going to read you a verse that God showed me afterwards. So, but Matthew 7:21 through 23 says, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. On that day, many will say to me, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name and cast out demons in your name and do mighty works in your name? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness. And that verse never hit me so hard as it did when I was in Israel. And then Revelations 3:15 through 17 says, I know your works. You are neither cold nor hot. Would that you were either cold or hot. But because you are lukewarm and neither hot nor cold, I will spit you out of my mouth. For you say, I am rich, I have prospered, and I need nothing, not realizing that you are wretched, pitiable, poor, blind, and naked. And that was me. That was me. And I had no idea. On April 3rd, we went to the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus prayed right before they took him. And you led a devotional on that night and how he was in anguish, and he prayed, and I was listening to the devotional, and I was just feeling heavy. I just felt the Spirit of God heavy, not about me, just about what he did for me. And I was thankful that he died for me. And so what Ryan said was, I'm going to release you guys to go out here into the garden where Jesus, somewhere in here, he prayed, his last prayer before going to the cross. And I want you guys to pray. And I want whatever it is that you need to let go of, whatever it is that God's going to do, today is the day he's going to do it. And I'm thinking, all right, whatever God wants, I'm going to go out there. And so that's exactly what I did. I went right to the first tree I saw. I laid my face down in the dirt, and I said, God, whatever you want, my hands, my feet, your will, your way, whatever you want in my life, God, whatever you want. And you know what what came back to me, what heard was, I want you to start over. I want you to start over. And I was telling him the other day, I was like, is that you, Wayne? Like, where are you? Wayne's over my shoulder whispering things to me. And it was the Lord just telling me he wanted me to start my life over again. and I fought him. I said, Lord, I'll do it, but I don't know what that means. I don't know am I supposed to forget all the scriptures I've memorized? Am I supposed to forget all the things that I've done for you? I don't know what it means to start over, God, but okay, I'll start over. I submit myself to you. I give you everything. Okay. And so we got done. It was like 45 minutes or something like that. And I went up and I sat down on the bench waiting for the last couple people to finish up what they were working on with God. And I typed out what happened in the garden there. Just 2 sentences. And it was for me. I didn't plan on sharing it with anybody. My wife, my kids, my family, my friends. I wasn't telling this to anybody because this is, what God did in me. How many of you, God has spoken to you something, and it's not supposed to be for the rooftops. You're not supposed to go tell everybody. It's just for you. So that's me. I was thinking this is for me. It wasn't for me. It wasn't just for me. The last night we were there, we were all circled up. There's 45 of us, and we're testifying. And 35 or 36 people had gone, and so I was coming up, and I was like, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? I had a great trip. Derek got saved. I could talk about that because I helped in that, So my mind is thinking, what did I do on this trip? What did God do in me? And God said, I want you to read what you wrote. And I'm like, God, anything but that? I was like, these people are going to know I'm a sinner. And I kid you not, as soon as that thought hit my mind, it really did hit my mind. As soon as that thought hit my mind, I thought, God, I don't want to be that person anymore, so I don't care. I'll read it if you want me to read it, and I'll tell them all my sins. I don't care. I will do whatever you want me to do from here forward, so I'm going to do it. I'll read it. Still didn't want to read it, but I was hoping, maybe if I told God that, he would make me not read it. But it got to me, and I read it, and I'm going to read it for you. This is what I wrote on April 3rd, 2014 at 5 p.m. in the Garden of Gethsemane in Israel. I, Nick York, recommitted my life to Jesus Christ and his will for my life. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. I am leaving Nick York in this garden, never to be heard from again. You will not rule this man any longer. That was the decision I made. And it was so freeing after I said that. I couldn't believe everybody's faces. They were so excited for me and shocked, and it was freeing. I had just confessed, man, I'm a sinner. I'm not the perfect person I thought I was, I'm not the Christian that I thought I was. Man, I'm lost. I was lost. But God, you set me free. And I'm telling you, it was just like that. God started to reveal to me that I had, Luke 7:36. I encourage you all to go home and read Luke 7 tonight. You can start at verse 36. In verse 39, this is what it says. Now, when the Pharisee who had invited him saw this, he said to himself, if this man were a prophet, he would have known who and what sort of woman this was touching him, for she is a sinner. This is Simon, the Pharisee, invited Jesus to come into his house and eat with him. And back in that culture, when you invited, a rabbi to come speak, come share a meal with you, the doors were open so anybody could come, anybody from the city, anybody. And so, they wouldn't sit at a table, they would recline. So they were reclining, they would lay down forward and all dipping, whatever it was, the bread, or, and this woman comes in and sits at Jesus' feet and starts messing with his feet, starts cleaning them up and anointing his feet. And verse 39 says, the Pharisee who invited them saw this, and he said to himself. It doesn't say he said to Jesus. It said he said it to himself. It was his thoughts. These were thoughts. These were your thoughts, the thoughts that you all have had, the thoughts that I have, the thing that just came to my mind, and it came to Simon's mind. Man, if he knew that woman was a woman of the city, he wouldn't be letting her do this, would he? And so Jesus confronted him about it. That's what Jesus did to me. He confronted me about my sin. And when I got home from Israel, God started showing me all the little judgments I had on all of them. So for those of you here, I apologize, to you guys that were on the trip with me. I was wicked, man. I was judging you, thinking about all your sins and, like the plank in, my eye, but I was looking at the specks in yours, ones that you had already been forgiven of, And so that's what happened. Jesus, showed me that I had a Pharisee's heart, and my heart was a stone heart. And, it was bad. It was really bad. Ezekiel 11, this is what it was, Ezekiel 11:17-21. It says, therefore thus says the Lord God, I will gather you from the peoples and assemble you out of the countries where you've been scattered, and I will give you the land of Israel. This is God talking about his people, Israel. And he said, and when they come here, they will remove from it all its detestable things and its abominations, and I will give them one heart, a new spirit, and I will put within them, I will remove the heart of stone from their flesh, and I will give them a heart of flesh, that they may walk in my statutes and keep my rules and obey them, and they shall be my people, and I will be their God. That's what God did for me. God took that stone heart, and he gave me a heart of flesh. And I'm telling you, every day since then, I've been begging God to let me keep this heart of flesh. I don't want a stone heart anymore. I'm seeing things. You said, how does it affect my daily life? It's changing me. It is totally changing me. We were at the airport with my family. I have a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 12-year-old. And this guy was cussing, him and his girlfriend or wife or whatever. And my initial thought was, man, they're cussing in front of my kids, Anger started to, I need to say something to these guys. And God totally turned it. And he said, pray for them, Nick. They don't know me. They don't know how to talk. They don't know me. So pray for them. And I thought, yeah, why don't I pray for them? That's a good idea. It's like instead of getting all angry and ticked off about the sin and unrighteousness in people, instead of trying to fix people, God showed me that I need to love them and do what the whosoever's are doing. Love people no matter what they're doing. And that's what I've been doing. I've been doing it, and I'm a different person. I'm a different person as a result, man. So
thank you for coming. This is a message you never hear, right? I've never heard this before. What's the title that we came up with?
Wade came up with it.
Wade came up with the title.
Is
the church, the
real problem in the church.
The real problem in the church, Pharisees.
So
it's available tonight if you guys want to get it to go home. They're going to burn it on CDs for you guys. It's obviously free on the webcast. I want to end it here. I read this cool little devotion the other day in Romans, and I'll end it with this. In Romans 12 says, and so, dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you to give your bodies to God because all he has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice, the kind he will find acceptable. Yeah. This is truly the way to worship God. Don't copy the behaviors and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Or in another verse, it says by renewing of the mind.
Right.
Renewing the mind of the word. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. So basically what they're saying is give your life as a living sacrifice. Just give it all to God, and that's the way you truly worship God. And we always open it up if there's anyone here that wants to receive Christ. What it comes down to is if you're in his shoes, you need to start over. And if you are not a Christian and you're here, you need to start.